I have a slightly weird confession for you. Last week I was standing in my kitchen waiting for the water to boil. About 40 seconds of nothing, just staring at the kettle. And when I snapped out of it, my phone was already in my hand, unlocked, my thumb sliding across the screen. And here's the part that stopped me cold in the middle of the kitchen. I don't remember deciding to pick it up. There was no moment of, hey, let me take a quick look. My hand just went. And me, the supposed owner of the hand, showed up late, after the whole thing was already over. So I started paying attention. In the elevator, the hand went. In line at the store, the hand went. The second the person across the table stood up to go to the bathroom, the hand was already going. Always the same thing, me finding out afterward. Always the phone already there, warm like it had jumped into my fingers on its own. If you think this is just poor focus, or an addiction, or laziness, or I need more discipline, stay with me for a few minutes. Because what's happening in that tiny instant is a lot stranger, and honestly a lot more interesting than any of those lazy explanations. In that half second, inside your head, there are two of you, two different people using the same brain, and one of them grabbed the phone before the other one even opened its eyes. Today I want to introduce you to those two, face to face, because once you understand who they are, where they come from, and how they fight, you'll stop battling your own hand like it's your enemy, and you'll actually start to understand why it does what it does. Let's start with the one that grabbed the phone, the fast one. This first you is quick, frighteningly quick. It doesn't think, it just runs. It's the part of the brain that handles everything you've done so many times it went automatic. Tying your shoes, shifting gears while you talk to the person next to you, typing your phone password without even looking, walking down the stairs in the dark. This part even has a physical address, way down deep, underneath everything, in a set of very old structures scientists call the basal ganglia. You don't need to memorize the name. Just think of it as the autopilot in your head. And the autopilot isn't a flaw. It's one of the most generous gifts evolution ever handed you. Think about the first day you tried to drive. Everything was a conscious, exhausting decision. Foot on the clutch, hand on the gear shift, eye on the mirror, all at once, and you were sweating. Now you drive a whole route and get home without remembering half of it. Not because you're spaced out, because the autopilot took the wheel and freed up your conscious you to think about something else. If you had to consciously decide every tiny movement of your day, you'd seize up before breakfast. So the brain makes a quiet, genius deal with you. Anything you repeat too much, I'll take over. You don't even have to show up. Go ahead and rest. And here's the trick. The part almost nobody notices. Grabbing the phone became one of those things. Without you signing off on it. You've repeated that gesture so many thousands of times, maybe 100, 200 times a day, every day for years, that it quietly slipped out of the decisions list and moved into the reflexes list. It got promoted and nobody told you about the promotion. Now it lives in the same bucket as tying your shoes. You don't decide to tie your shoes, your fingers just do it, on their own while you think about your day. The phone landed in that exact spot. It's not a choice of yours anymore. It's a reflex of yours. But every reflex needs a trigger, something that pulls the trigger so the action fires. The shoe has an obvious trigger, your foot going into the sneaker. What's the trigger for the phone? This is where it gets genius and a little bit creepy. The trigger isn't boredom, not exactly. The trigger is something much more specific and much smaller. The gap, that tiny sliver of empty between one thing and the next. The seam between two moments. Look at your own life for a second. The water that hasn't boiled yet. The red light that hasn't turned green. The page that's still loading. The elevator going up. The line inching forward. The 3-second stretch after you send a message and before you decide what to do next. See it? None of those is a moment of deep boredom. They're gaps. Tiny cracks in the middle of the day. Little pockets of silence. And your autopilot has learned to sniff out those gaps with an absurd, almost supernatural precision. The exact instant the world opens a little crack, it fills it, automatic, before you. And check out this other clue. You almost never grab the phone in the middle of a genuinely intense task. When you're deep in something that takes all of you, a hard problem, a conversation that matters, a game that grips you, the hand stays quiet, the phone disappears from your awareness. It's always in the seam that it shows up. The autopilot is polite in that crooked way. It doesn't storm the stage in the middle of the scene. It waits for the curtain to drop for half a second, And that's when it runs in, grabs what it wants, and slips out before you even notice there was a scene. So that's the first fighter stepping into the ring. Fast, silent, trigger-driven, faceless, and, here's the most beautiful irony, trained by you, gesture by gesture, without you ever noticing you were training an animal to do this. Now the second fighter. And pay close attention, because this one is the one you think you are. The second you is the one that reflects, the one that weighs things, the one that says, I think I'll do this and better not, and tomorrow I'll start. It's the voice inside your head, that chatty narrator that seems to run the show all day. It lives in the front of the brain, right behind your forehead, a region called the prefrontal cortex. It's the newest part of your head in evolutionary terms, the last to arrive, and it's brilliant. It plans the future, imagines consequences that haven't happened yet, holds back impulses, makes New Year's resolutions. It's the pride of the species, but it has one fatal problem compared to the autopilot down in the basement. It's slow to wake up. It needs a beat to step onto the stage. And right here is where the story starts to raise the hair on your arm. Because scientists managed to measure that delay, actually measure it, with equipment. They had people do a simple thing, press a button whenever they wanted, the moment they felt like it, no rules. And at the same time they measured the electrical activity in those people's brains. Each person had to note the exact instant they felt the decision to press rise up inside them. And then the scientists compared the two, the moment of the felt decision and the moment the brain started to move, and they found something that nobody honestly wanted to believe. The brain started preparing the movement a fraction of a second before the person felt they'd decided to press. The body was already organizing itself to act. The signals were already going down, while the conscious you, the narrator, still thought it was sitting there, free, deciding whether or not to go. Let that settle for a second, because it's big. The decision you feel as yours, that okay, now I'm going, that click of will, often isn't the start of the action, it's second place. The real starting gun had already fired way back, in the dark, by the autopilot, before you felt anything at all. And so what you call I decided is in reality your second you walking into a scene that's already in motion, looking at the hand that's already moving, and doing the one thing it does very well, telling a little story that makes the whole thing look like a clean, conscious choice you made. This is why you never feel the hand disobeying you. You never feel that conflict, that inner struggle in the moment of grabbing the phone. There's no drama at all. The hand goes, and the narrator in your head immediately stitches on smooth, almost instant. Oh right, I was gonna check the time anyway. It's not lying on purpose. It doesn't think it's the villain. It's just doing its job, which is to give you the comforting sense that you're at the controls of the ship. The brain is horrified by the idea that something happened in your body without your permission. So it fills the hole with a reason fast, and you never noticed the reason was invented after the fact had already happened, after the hand had already gone. If this is landing for you, do yourself a favor. Don't lose the thread of who you actually are. Hold that question for later. For now, just keep noticing. So now you've got the two fighters standing in front of you in the same ring. On one side, the autopilot, fast, ancient, faceless, trigger-driven, and it already won the fight before the bell rang. On the other side, the conscious you, slow, clever, proud, full of good intentions, and almost always late. So late that without noticing, its job stopped being to decide and became to justify. It stopped being the pilot and became the press secretary, writing a nice statement after the decision already went out. And this is exactly why now you get the mechanics. Willpower almost always loses this particular fight. Willpower is a tool of the second you, the slow one up front. For it to work, it has to be awake, present, attention switched on at the exact moment. But what's the exact moment? It's that half second in the gap. And that's precisely where the second you is still dozing. By the time it finally opens an eye and says, hey wait, the phone is already in your hand, the screen already lit. Asking your willpower to stop you from grabbing the phone is like asking the referee to call a penalty after the ball's already hit the net. He blows the whistle, poor guy. But the goal already counts. It's on the board. And I want you to take a real breath now, because this part matters. If you've ever felt weak, or spineless, or undisciplined for not being able to just stop touching my phone, I want you to put that weight down for a second, because you weren't losing a fight of strength. You were showing up late to a fight that was already over before you walked into the room. This isn't weakness. This isn't about you being weak. This is architecture. It's how the building was built. Every human brain works exactly like this. Mine, yours, the brain of everyone watching this right now, probably with a phone less than a foot from their hand, maybe even in it. And if this took some weight off your shoulders, do this. Send this video to that person you know who keeps saying they're addicted to their phone and beats themselves up over it every single day. Because it's not a weak character addiction. It's their autopilot doing perfectly exactly what it was built to do. Sometimes taking the weight of guilt off someone's back is the kindest thing you can do on an ordinary day. Now, understanding all this is already half the road, but understanding on its own doesn't move your hand a single inch. And that's where most people get stuck. So let me show you the part nobody tells you. You're probably already thinking, okay, fine, so I just need to stay sharp and catch the autopilot in the act and block it right there. But remember what we just saw. By the time you notice, it's already too late. You can't get there faster than it. Nobody can. It's biology, not motivation. The good news is this. You don't need to be faster than it. You need to be smarter than it in one spot. The trigger. Because the autopilot isn't magic, and it isn't all-powerful. It's just a chain of 3 links, always the same. A trigger, a routine, a reward. The gap of silence is the trigger. Grabbing the phone and scrolling is the routine. And the reward, this is the hidden part, is that micro relief of not having to sit alone with the emptiness, even for half a second. It's escaping the gap. The routine you can't stop in the heat of the moment. It's too fast, we've seen that. But the trigger you can see, not in the exact moment, that's fine, but afterward. And seeing it afterward, if you do it enough times, slowly starts to change the before. Let me get really concrete, because abstraction here helps nobody change anything. For the next few days, you're not going to try to stop grabbing the phone. Forget that. That's a fight you already know you lose. Instead, you're going to do one tiny thing. When you notice the phone already in your hand, and it'll always be afterward, always with a delay, and that's fine. Instead of getting annoyed at yourself, you're just going to ask, calmly, one question. What was that gap? That's it. What had just happened in the half second before? Did the conversation hit a pause? Did the task you were doing finish? Was there an awkward silence? You're not going to change anything, not going to put the phone down, not going to punish yourself. You're just going to catalog the gap, give it a name, and move on. Sounds like nothing, I know. Sounds like way too little to work, but something curious happens when you do this a few times in a row. Your second you, the slow one, the one up front, starts to learn the shape of the gaps. It starts effortlessly to recognize the smell of the trigger, its outline. And then, on some ordinary day, without you forcing anything, without discipline, you'll feel the gap coming before the hand goes. For the first time in your life, the slow one gets there before the fast one. Not because it got faster, it never will, but because it finally learned where to wait in ambush. It found the address of the trap. And when that happens, even just once, something really beautiful shows up in that half second. In that same half second that your whole life was just a hole waiting to be filled. You notice, all of a sudden, that there's a choice in there. A tiny choice, the size of a grain. You can grab the phone, and look, it's fine if you do. This isn't about becoming a monk. But now you know you're grabbing it. You're there, present, at the controls, for the first time. It's not the autopilot leading you by the hand without you seeing. It's you, awake, standing inside the gap, actually deciding. And the difference between those 2 half seconds looks like nothing when you time it on a clock, but it is, deep down, the whole difference between passing through your life on autopilot and being actually alive inside it. And if training that second you is the kind of thing you're into, learning to catch the mechanism before it decides for you, that's exactly what we keep doing around here, one small gesture at a time. You already know where to be, because in the end you've probably felt it by now. It's not about the phone. It never was. The phone is just the most obvious example. That same swallowed gap happens all day long, in 1,000 other gestures you haven't even started to map. The way you snap back when someone contradicts you, the food the hand reaches for, the words that come out before you choose them. And so here's the question, and this one I won't answer for you because the answer is yours, only yours, and you might sit with it a while. How many of your days did you actually choose, and how many were just the autopilot filling gaps, 1 half second at a time, while the you who swears it decides showed up, every time, a little bit late,